Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. Pianist Lynne Arriale's latest Motema record release, Convergence, is really the second of all her projects that she's recorded where she's included a saxophone. Throughout her 20 years in the business, she's recorded with a trio, but over the last decade, she's expanded and started a quartet. Tonight, she's going to perform selections off her brand new CD. Convergence. This is the brand new Motema's record release. Tell me why you decided to include a horn player as well as go to the quartet style.
I had been playing trio for many years, and I decided it was time for a change, and I wanted to experiment with a different sound. And having a saxophone was an obvious choice. And before this record, I had Randy Brecker, great trumpet player, flugelhorn player, and in the quartet setting, and that was very interesting. It's just a different style. I still love to play trio, but this creates a very particular energy, and Joel is phenomenal. Joel Frahm.
How is it playing now with a quartet versus a trio, in addition to that, writing your music for an additional person?
Well, melody is melody. So whether it's played on the piano or played on a saxophone, it needs to have something about it that really reaches the listener. Of course, I have to write it in their range in a way that will sound good on their instrument, not just where I hear it. But, that's a small detail. But I'm also thinking about the sound of their instrument and their personality when I'm writing as well.
One thing that you do on this album, and I just want so many more jazz musicians like yourself to continue doing it, is your scope of tunes that you are performing on here. You go from Blondie, you go to Sting, you go to Nine Inch Nails. How did you decide to choose contemporary music and put it in jazz form?
Well, a great tune is a great tune. So whether it's George Gershwin or it's Sting or the Beatles, I look for beautiful melodies. And to me, it's just music. It's not just, narrow and, these are jazz standards or these aren't jazz standards. And if it's a good melody and I feel like I can kind of shine a different kind of light on it so that the listener will recognize the tune, but it'll be something slightly different, then I usually will write an arrangement on it.
tonight you incorporated some world influences in one of the compositions that you performed tonight, and one of your members of your band played the oud. How did that come about?
I've always been interested in world music. I've listened to Celtic music and Brazilian and African music and Mideastern music, and this is an instrument from the Middle East. And when I found out that Omer plays the oud, it was really exciting to me because I thought, I'm going to write, a tune specifically for that instrument. And it's so raw and it's so beautiful. It adds a very different color to the sound of the music.
Let's talk about your origins in Milwaukee. Who is it that exposed you to not only just jazz music, but music as a whole?
Well, I started playing when I was about 3 or 4 years old on a plastic toy piano, and I would just play melodies that I'd heard on the radio, like Broadway tunes, Beatles tunes, whatever, and I would play by ear. And then I had years of study of classical music because nobody in my family knew anything about jazz. And I didn't really hear jazz until I was in my 20s. So the improvisation kind of fell by the wayside a little because I just didn't have anyone to help cultivate that. And then I heard jazz, and I just was walking down the street one day, and I literally had a passing thought, you should study jazz. I didn't really even know what it was. I didn't hear like a voice from above, but I, my mind. And I didn't know where it would take me, but I decided to just follow that. And when I found out that this is improvised music and that you can decide how you want to play a tune and that you can improvise over the chord changes, and every night it can be completely different, it really blew me away.
Let's fast forward to the mid-'80s into early '90s when you decided to come to New York City. What was it like coming into a major environment like this after coming from a classical environment, coming into a jazz environment?
It was intimidating. I had been playing jazz for many years, but nobody's quite prepared to come to New York and make their living as a jazz musician because it's a little daunting going from club to club to try to get a gig and to try to network. But I was very persistent, and I started playing around town and got to play with people that I had idolized. I remember one of my first gigs was with Rufus Reid, and others with Jamil Nasser, who played with Ahmad Jamal for many years, and Frank Gant, and many others. And so I was very lucky from the beginning to play with great players.
What is your particular style?
I like to think of it as just music, but I think it's lyrical, but it's also trying to create a lot of different moods in the music. Just like human beings are not one-dimensional. We all have, feelings of joy, feelings of humor, sadness, all of that, and I want that to come through the music in different tunes.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the Jazz Standard here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank Lynne Arriale for her time, as well as the staff and management here at the Jazz Standard. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.